So A is for air. And Brian Davis, he does it A through Z for different trumpet aspects. He started a part two, A through Z, but this is the first A through Z, air. And he says playing the trumpet is all about the air. Well, there's a little more to it, but one of the main problems is the quantity of air that we use. We really, most of us are using too much air, and we should use a smaller quantity. He says a lot of trumpet players will complain that they have a problem with their embouchure, or they're not strong enough to play high, or they do not have the endurance to play all the way through a gig, or they're using too much mouthpiece pressure and damaging themselves. Well, with the proper amount of air, which is less, all these issues can be helped to be alleviated. So it will definitely help you if you start using a little less air. And he says to take your mouthpiece out. And the first thing he did, actually, before he took his mouthpiece out, was to play the G on the staff, which is concert F. And then he remembered that sound. And then he took his mouthpiece and he tried to play with as less resistance, less pressure as he could. And he actually ended up getting more of a whistle instead of a buzz. I don't know if you can hear the whistle.
Yeah.
Just before it buzzes. And he says, in fact, if you are buzzing, you're actually using too much air. And that can be something that affects your endurance, your tone. And so he said, if you're playing like that and you put it in your mouthpiece and you play, if you're actually overblowing, you're not getting as nice a tone. So he says that when you take the mouthpiece and you play or blow through it, you should be able to make the tone without using a buzz on your lips. Now, if you're having a hard time getting this to work for you, then he says go ahead and do a slight buzz. And then back off from that. He says that if you're an inexperienced player or you're new to this technique, it may take a little while to develop the muscles of your embouchure to be able to play that way. But he says when we're using that less air when we play, then we're not damaging the lips as much. We're not using as much pressure to contain the air. So that makes your lips have more endurance. And actually, it should help your range because you're relying a little more on the support of your air for the playing. So he was all against too much air, which is overblowing. And he says if you're actually buzzing the mouthpiece, you're probably overblowing. And this applies to baritone too and other brass instruments. So let's go on down. All of these things can improve quickly and easily by simply blowing less air. Now, if you're blowing less air, you can also play longer passages, which is another side effect. Now, to play louder, you need to blow more air. But when we're practicing, he recommends practicing very softly on your scales, your exercises, even when you're playing music, to play very softly. And he says that you're playing more efficiently when you're not overblowing. We're going to page 2. So when you're trying to do this playing with the mouthpiece, you don't want any back pressure. You don't want any air backing up, he says. And if your cheeks puff or your neck expands, then you need to back off and blow more gently.
Tell that to Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Dizzy Gillespie, even Satchmo puffed his cheeks a bit. And so that's a technique that people, if you're really good, you can break the rules and it's not a big deal. And even, didn't Dizzy have the horn that was all bent up?
Yeah.
Because of his embouchure was different. And so if you're really good, you can break any of the rules and that's fine. But these are basically general rules where you don't want to puff your cheeks. Now, there is a technique where you do puff your cheeks to do circular breathing, which I think I'll look up next time and see people who play the didgeridoo do it. When they're blowing the air out, they puff their cheeks and they use it like a bagpipe, and the pressure of your cheeks going like that, you can take a breath in. And so you're still playing the note because your cheeks are being like a bagpipe. At least that's the way I understand it. And you can breathe in from your nose and get air back in, fill your cheeks again, use the cheeks like a bagpipe, and continue to play and play and play. I watched the movie The Right Stuff, and they put the thing in their mouth and they blow the water to keep the balls above a certain point. And the two guys are all happy. They think they're doing great and they stop. And then John Glenn and the other guy, Armstrong probably, is still blowing for another, minute or so.
Yeah.
And one thing that they didn't do in the movie is some people can actually, as they're blowing out, can take air in through their nose. Now, if that's something we could learn, that would be really good. So they really should have had nose plugs when they were doing that, because if John Glenn could breathe in through his nose and blow out air through his mouth at the same time, you could probably go on for a much greater duration. So that's what he was talking about with this playing here. And so to use the same quantity of air. This may be a tall order if you do need to develop some muscles to develop this easy response. And he said, try playing easily as possibly, especially on your easiest notes. And he says he plays this way from the first note he plays every day to keep that air and overblowing under control. And as you practice this, you will find it easier. The one other thing he said is there is a good reason for the buzz, which he's going to talk about later. The buzz is good for developing your embouchure and getting the shape correct. And once you have that, then you can back off. But also he says, if you're buzzing on your mouthpiece, he recommends, especially for beginners, that you only do it for 30 seconds at a time. Because when you're buzzing, you're actually using your lips too vigorously, and you can damage them if you're playing more than 30 seconds at a time, especially in the beginning. There are some trumpet instructors, I guess there's one in Sweden, that has the students buzz on their mouthpiece for a year before they ever put it in their horn. So that's a different thought on the matter. But Brian Davis is really fairly anti-lip buzz, unless he does it for 30 seconds, 45 seconds a day, just as a warm-up. But he keeps the lip buzz very gentle. So here we go here. And so definitely right before it buzzes, then that quality of air is the way he likes to play first thing in the day. Blow through the mouthpiece and then the horn. And if you can't get the note, if it doesn't speak to you, you can do a gentle mouthpiece buzz and then add it to the trumpet. And try this with and without the easy buzz. And you'll find, he says, that without the buzz, the tone is a little better. So I think with the buzz, it's just a little more harsh. So
Maybe you get more overtones or something when you do it.
yeah, and overtones may be okay if you're doing Yes or Queen, where the overtones are supposed to be there. And they used to always talk about Janis Joplin. When she sang, she could get like
Yeah.
2 different overtones up and
Yeah, you're right. Huh.
and
I never thought about that.
and and I, never found Janis as Joplin's music as enjoyable, but my sister really likes her, so I've been listening to her. And when she sings regularly, she does a couple of melodic songs. Her voice is beautiful, but most of the songs she sings, she does this screaming kind of overtones.
Yeah.
And but there are a couple songs she sings, which I don't remember the names of them, are just beautifully and melodic, and I respect her more for it. So it's the style that she's picked up. So maybe overblowing to get overtones for an effect, like doing those different sound effects we were doing with the trumpet last week, could be an effective sound. But Brian Davis definitely doesn't like it because he thinks it's damaging to your lips. It doesn't give you as nice a tone. And so we can go from there. Let's see, what else does he say?
I went to see Janis Joplin sing in 1968. I was stationed at Balboa Hospital at 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get in. I didn't have tickets. And I was in the Civic Center, which today is Golden Hall. And I couldn't get in, but I was outside and the door was open. I didn't have to go in.
Yeah.
She was about as loud as anybody I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to see Kansas at the LA Sports Arena. This is like 20 years ago, but they played everything so ear bleeding loud. And I bring earplugs, but still it's bad. And then they came to play their main song, Dust in the Wind, which is this very melodic, nice tune. And they just played it so loud, it was just unenjoyable. And, it's dust in the wind, and it was just really, of course, the LA Sports Arena at the time just had really bad acoustics.
Yeah.
So, but I saw Bruce Springsteen there, and it was actually very good. So obviously his sound person was a little better.
Yeah.
I didn't respect Springsteen either, but Springsteen did like 2.5 hours without a break. And then he said, I'm going to take a 10-minute break. And if you want me to play more, if you can keep clapping and yelling, I'll play more. And we couldn't. Our hands were raw. Our throats were hoarse. And so he played a couple more encores, but then he left. But he said, if you can keep clapping and yelling, I'll play more, but we couldn't. And so I kind of respected him more for that too. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else he says here. Add the trumpet to it. Try it with and without the buzz. The tone is not as pure with the buzz. More pure when you're using just the air, almost a whistle. Buzzing is a sign of overblowing. And it says buzzing is useful to form your embouchure, which he'll talk more about later. And that's what I've got for today. I think I'll next time prepare a little more just in case. But any comments or any observations? And I think, Greg, you've been playing this way a little less air since we talked about it. Or did you get the air lesson the first time I did it?
No, I remember the thing about the mouthpiece
Yeah.
and the trumpet. Yeah, and you know, I can see now how people are saying that you can play high notes without having to blow hard. You can, but and I have an interval of time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, where my lips are good enough to do that, and then I deteriorate again.
Mine are the same. I actually played DEF the other day, but I could only play it for a couple minutes
Hmm.
above the high C. And so I was going, whoa, I never played that note before. And it was really, to me, the thing that's making the most difference, I think, is that arching tongue, where you're putting the
Yeah.
tongue down and touching the lower teeth and arching the tongue. And I can still tongue well there too, though I need to practice a little more. But the arching tongue really has seemed to help that range. Now the lips curled in and doing the little squeaky buzz is seeming to help also. And that seems to relate to a higher note also. It's cutting the volume down, but the speed has to be there. So I think those things are helping when I practice them correctly. So, and
Yeah, I
live.
saw a video the other day that it was like the secret to playing high notes, and it was saying essentially you like whistle as you're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
The whistle raises your tongue like that
right.
if you know how to whistle. Now, Dan Wolford, who's a very good trumpet player, says, I can't whistle. I could never learn how to whistle. And the one exercise, and it wasn't Brian Davis, it was the other guy that Ed likes, Morris, Jim
Yeah.
Morris, yeah, Morrison.
Yeah.
He said that you can practice it by raising the tongue and blowing air like you're whistling, and you don't have to whistle.
Right.
So he says if you're raising the tongue and going, well, I was whistling, but and blowing the air without the whistle, you can still achieve it. So you don't have to whistle. So I kind of told Dan that so that he can work on that. So I think the whistling does do it. I used to whistle really well. So practicing that would help, I think. So
I can't whistle anymore. I used to, but I lost half the notes.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe more than half. I don't know. My mouth has changed or something, but
yeah.
I got a YouTube video with the euphonium player Matonis. He makes all kinds of videos, and he's interviewing a tuba player who's like a grand old man. He's the leader of the Pittsburgh Brass Band, which is the only professional brass band in America. And but that guy is he does this buzzing. He does it even without the mouthpiece. He goes up and down the scale just using his lips. It's pretty fascinating. But he talks about the same kinds of things with buzzing, why people put pressure on their mouthpiece. It's an interesting thing. I have to find where that video was, and I'll send you a link to it. But he's an interesting guy. And there is a YouTube video by a trumpet player on how to circular breathe, and he said, "Oh, you can. It's very easy. You can do it in 5 minutes or less, or something." I'm not.
I don't think it's that easy. I've got the didgeridoo and I've been trying it, and it's not that easy. So
I figure I better concentrate on some other basics before I worry about that.
well, maybe if we thought it was easy, it would be easy, but I've already got it in my mind that it's not. So, yeah, a lot of different interesting things. Now, you said it was the only professional brass band. Is that their full time and they get paid
Yeah,
for
they
it?
get paid. They're the
Okay.
only ones that get paid as players to play for it. It's called the River City Band. It's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Oh, Greg gave us a
I
link.
just found it. I never even knew this existed. That's a good tip.
Matonis it plays for them, so he has a lot of his videos playing with them, and consequently, when he makes his videos with a small ensemble or something, they're all fellow members of the River City Band.
I'm just gonna pause it for a second. I think they're definitely playing stuff that's really hard, but I would like to hear more trombone and euphonium to balance it out. It just seems a little top heavy to me.
That's the worst. That's the worst I've ever heard them sound. I don't know if they were brand new when they were playing this, but it sounds like the sound equipment just wasn't up there. I've heard them play that particular number indoors, and they have more people, and you can definitely hear. I mean, Matonis is in there. I can see him in the back. He's phenomenal. He's one of the most phenomenal euphonium players I've ever heard. So
Okay, so maybe we just got
that particular number that one right there. That's the worst I've ever heard them sound.
So should we go with a different one? Let's see if there's a different one here.
But that gentleman there that was conducting, that's the guy that he was interviewing. He was talking about buzzing and that. He's got some interesting things to say about buzzing.
Okay. The director looked like he was fairly good, but okay, very good. Let's see if we can get a different video.
Yeah.
Stars and Stripes version. Yeah, now that sounds really balanced.
And they're separated, so that has to be a recent one.
What's that?
They're all socially distanced, so that has to be a recent one.
Recent one, yeah. That sounded a lot more balanced. So,
Yeah.
okay, very good. I'm gonna call it a day, and thank
All
you
right.
so much. Stop the share here.
Thanks.
All right, you guys take care. I think I'll
Hey.
look at that circular breathing next time and see.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.